Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. We're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the Daily Office Lectionary. And I thought for Saturday, we would continue down this vein of the book Exodus, the second book of the Bible. Remember, we talked about Joseph and how it is that he got into Egypt at the end of the book Genesis. And now we've talked about the fact that another generation has come in, a new leader in Egypt, and he did not know Joseph. So all that gratitude for Joseph saving the Egyptian people from the famine is now out of the immediate corporate memory. And so it is that they, in fear of the people of the Jews, who were strong and powerful in number, that they have now enslaved them to keep them from turning on them and possibly defeating them along with other external enemies. And so we've heard at the end yesterday where it was said that the female babies would be allowed to live, but that the male babies should be cast into the Nile. And so we pick up here, chapter number 2, beginning at the first verse. And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took a wife, the daughter of Levi. And as the woman conceived and bare a son, and when she saw him, that he was goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took him for an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off, to wit, that would see what would be done with him. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself of the river, and her maidens walked by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And he called his name Moses. And she said, "Because I drew him out of the water." And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burden, and spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And when he went out a second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to them that did the wrong, "Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow?" And he said, "Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian?" And Moses feared and said, "Surely this thing is known." Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Okay, and the story goes on for more today, but I want to just concentrate on those little bits there today. So here we have the rescue of Moses, that God, just as he chose the treachery of Joseph's brother to sell him into Egypt, so God saved Moses from being slaughtered by having the Pharaoh's daughter, right? Instead of Joseph, who worked for Pharaoh, now all of a sudden here's Pharaoh's daughter, who hears the cry of this baby, and her heart is moved, and she decides that she's going to adopt the baby. Now, of course, the maid in the story is, in fact, Moses' kinsman. She knows who the baby's from, and she says, "I'll find an Egyptian or a Hebrew woman that can nurse this baby for you." She knows it's a Hebrew baby, by the way, because, right, Hebrew children are circumcised, so she knows from whence tribe he comes from. And so she ends up, by God's preparation, Moses is nursed and grows up healthy because of that nursing, by his own mother's milk. And the idea of a wet nurse was not uncommon throughout history. Women who were not able to breastfeed, somebody else breastfed the child for them, right? And so here we have Moses actually being nourished by his own mother, and then the mother, rather knowing that this is a much better fate than him obviously dying, gives him to be raised by Pharaoh. So once again, God is taking the evil of man's intentions and will work it for his own purpose in using Moses to be the one who will ultimately free the people from slavery, right? So it was God who frees them. Moses is the vehicle who does the leadership. And so I don't really spoil the story if you don't know it, but you're allowed to read ahead in the book Exodus if you want. So today is Saturday, which means tomorrow we gather for worship. Hip, hip, hooray. And of course, 7:30 morning prayer, 8 o'clock Holy Communion, 10 o'clock Holy Communion, and 5:30 evening prayer. So plan on being in church tomorrow to glorify God, to receive the Blessed Sacrament on what is known as Passion Sunday, or 2 weeks before Easter. And may God bless you a day that is full of blessings.